What is going on, guys? Michael J. Crawford, the Anti-Trekker here. Good to see you. Douglas was first in the house today. Just before we got started, Koroganite is here. 47 Yorktown says, good evening. Please save me from boredom. I will do my best. And Chief Cook says, what? Okay. So good to see y'all, and today I have no idea what we're talking about. I don't really have an agenda scheduled or anything like that. I'm really groggy today because me and Life with Matthew were up very, very late last night, even after the live stream, which went really, really late. We were talking for a while afterwards, and so, yeah, just did not get much sleep. So I am going to try to get some sleep tonight because I got a lot of work to do tomorrow. And Apothecairo, I don't know if I'm getting that right, but welcome, says, I'm a Brazilian, huge fan of your videos, man. I love Star Trek and respect your point of view. Kind of agree. Keep saying, keep it strong, brother. Thank you, my friend. You know what? I don't know. You may be the first person I've talked to directly from Brazil. So welcome. And I love the fact, that's just adding one more country to the list, because I talk to people all around the world, and I love it. I absolutely do. Love that. I wish that we could celebrate what current Star Trek was like instead of wish that it was better. But at the same time, it's cool to know that there are nerds in every culture. And so welcome, my friend. And hope I didn't butcher your name too awful bad. All right, so let's bring on my best enemy in the whole wide world, Darren Wagner. How you doing, my friend?
How am I your best enemy? How did I get that august title?
Well, because you're just so good at insulting me at just the right time. So,
LDG is jealous of me now. Then you realize that, right?
Well,
he kind of wants to be your arch nemesis.
He does, but the problem is that, for example, now I don't know if you saw it today, but LDG did the one chip challenge today. And this comes after him mocking me for weeks because I was such a wimp with the one chip challenge. And for those of you that don't know, the one chip challenge is a ridiculously spicy chip that now I'll be honest with you, I could have gone longer. I lasted about 5 minutes or so. I could have gone longer, but the truth was that
it was 2 minutes. It was 2 minutes.
Oh, Matthew, was it 2 minutes?
But Matthew was we didn't know if he was going to die or not. So
right.
If I'm on a stream with you and you think I'm dying, you better get that chip. You better start drinking ice cream or whatever. Because
yeah, I was more concerned about Matthew than I was bragging about the chip, and so. So I was trying to get that taken care of, and now, so ever since then, LDG has been just mocking me about what a wimp I was and everything, and how I was just like drinking gallons of ice cream because I couldn't take it. And so he does the challenge today. Now, I will give him some credit. He lasted 10 minutes before he grabbed a gallon of milk and started swigging it. Then. Then 30 seconds later, he got up and left. 3 other people on his live stream. He just gets up and walks away, does not come back for 11 minutes.
Wow.
And so, you know what? Matthew, who was having a genuine medical emergency, didn't walk away. So, yeah.
You're right. He didn't. But with LDG, there's so many other things that could have been demanding his time. His pixels, what he calls his clients, things like that. So we don't know. He's got he's talking.
Oh no! He said it was because he was having stomach cramps.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So I didn't see the stream, so I was working today.
Yeah.
But, see, now that he's the first person I know who's done both the bear and the chip, it's interesting. I would like to know which he thinks is better, which one he would rather do if he had to take one or the other.
I think that depending on if he's being honest about, I'm going to take him at his word. If he's being honest that the chip turned his stomach, but the bear didn't, then I'm sure he would say the bear was a better experience. He did say the bear was hotter than the chip,
right?
But I haven't done the bear yet, and when I get to it, we'll see. I haven't seen his stream where he did the bear, and so I don't know how he did there.
Yeah, he did the hot sauce number 12, and he did a lot of that. But he said the bear was a very different kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a different experience than the hot sauce. It's a different experience than the chip. The chip seems to be, you seem to get more pain mileage out of the chip. I'm noticing people. Yeah, because it's a chip. I don't know.
I think it's the texture of the chip, because I know you haven't had it, but the chip,
Right.
It's a tortilla chip technically, but it does not have the texture of a tortilla chip. It feels like, imagine if you took a tortilla chip and you put it in a fire and burnt it to a crisp, and then you put the ash, that was in the shape of the tortilla chip in your mouth.
Okay.
That's kind of the texture. It just crumbles in your mouth.
Well, don't feel too bad about whatever LDG does. You're still the king of eating bugs.
That's true. That is true.
That kebab experience of yours was still the I mean the sounds. Your microphone is right up there by your mouth, and we could hear with every chomp all these crushing insects and all the little noises you were making were just. So you're really trying to keep it down. The
bugs was rough.
I would take a hot chip over those bugs any day.
And by the way, some of the guys talking about the new episode of Mandalorian, it was actually a really good one. I know you haven't been watching it, man. You really need to watch it.
I know.
It's an amazing. I mean, it really is the formula of Samurai Jack set in the Old West, but the Old West is now in space. And
I never saw Samurai Jack. I don't know what that is. I know it's a cartoon, but is there anything else you could compare it to that I might have heard of?
I would say you could. It's the classic trope of a Western: the man with no name, except this is a man with no face. Because he's on a quest. His quest is very simple. He has this child, and he needs to protect this child and get this child to safety. That's the entire premise of the show.
Right. Okay.
And so as he's attempting to unravel what this child is, where can he take this child, all that, he goes from place to place. And kind of like, and it's almost a throwback to TV shows of the 80s, because in fact, think about the Incredible Hulk. He's on this quest, and then he goes into a town, runs into a problem, resolves the problem with the locals, and then moves on.
Right. Yeah, that's a common one. You mentioned the Hulk. Kung Fu is like that. So
very much like Kung Fu, yes.
So was
just with a cute kid.
Yeah. So was the Fugitive to a degree. The only difference is that one actually had an ending.
But so it's the wandering hero.
Gotcha.
But the interesting thing is that when you watch the first episode in particular, is and I would really say the first two episodes is the beginning of the classic hero's journey, in that he is an unwilling hero. He does not want to be a hero. He is not a quote-unquote good guy at the beginning of the series, but he's kind of thrown into the role of protector for this child.
And, I have to applaud their wisdom in making their first Star Wars streaming show about one of the great unexplored aspects of Star Wars, and that being the bounty hunters. We'd already known it. Jedis have been done to death, so have starfighters, so have smugglers, thanks to characters like Dash Rendar and Han Solo. We haven't really gotten into the head of a bounty hunter yet. And so there were so many colorful ones. I remember when they were first sort of introduced in Empire Strikes Back. I mean,
there was a guy that looked like a Gorn, and then there was the IG-88, and of course Boba Fett.
Found out Alex Kurtzman and Secret Hideout.
And they didn't have proper names for them yet. They just gave them the action figures had the makeup names. Right. So Snaggletooth, for example, was somebody's name.
Well, Walrus Man was
Walrus Man. Yeah. And later they gave them proper names. So
Right. Now Jaegerbomb, thank you so much, drops $10 in, and I know you couldn't hear it, but it said that he said found out that Alex Kurtzman and Secret Hideout, two of Darren Wagner's favorite things in the whole world, are now working on a Halo TV show. Unbridled rage intensifies. This is total BS. Also, screw that one chip challenge. Gave me heartburn from hell. Yeah, if you do, yeah, the one chip will definitely, if you're sensitive to spicy foods, it'll get you. But yeah, I didn't know about the Halo show.
It all makes sense now. Just like J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movies were actually just a tryout for Star Wars, so too, Alex Kurtzman has created a couple of Star Trek shows as a tryout for a Halo show, since he's already been, borrowing, swiping, what do you want to call it, sampling concepts
I think people just say lifting is the proper term.
Yeah, from various sci-fi franchises, including, from what I'm told, Mass Effect and Halo and that kind of stuff. So that just makes sense, This has all been his big tryout book.
Although the interesting thing about Kurtzman's journey with Trek is that you keep in mind that people talk about J.J. Abrams. They say the J.J. Abrams movies. Kurtzman is the only person that was involved in every single production of Generation 3 Trek, starting with 2009. He and Orsi co-wrote that movie.
That is true. Yeah.
And so he was on the production of every single Star Trek starting in 2009. Now he really had the least creative control in Lower Decks, and I think that's why Lower Decks is the best that we've had.
It's funny. I've noticed a trend with him because I didn't realize that he made that awful Mummy movie, which was
the Tom Cruise one, yeah,
the Tom Cruise one, because I went to see that in the theater with my brother. Of all the movies we picked, we just picked that one.
Yeah,
and it was one of the worst theater experiences I'd had. But there's something about his work. He always, all the teaser stuff and the stuff that he alludes to in his stories are better than the actual story he's telling you. And you kind of alluded to that with your Discovery review. In The Mummy, the best part of that movie wasn't the Mummy. It wasn't Tom Cruise. It was Russell Crowe as Mr. Hyde, and the fact that he was the sort of the director of this shield-like organization. That was all made up of these classic monsters that had been modernized. And his Mr. Hyde, I thought was very interesting. And I'm like, can we have that movie?
Exactly. It is funny because I don't think and. Even though I know that to some this is sacrilege to say, I don't think that Kurtzman is completely talentless. But I think that the problem is that he shouldn't be given the full reins. He should be one of those concept guys. And like he comes up with some general ideas, and then you bring in some gifted writers and producers to develop it and make it stew. You think about it, kind of like what happened with Gene Roddenberry creating the original series and then what it became because of other people that obviously had more writing and producing talent than Gene Roddenberry.
Keeping your precious pen in his hand.
And he, like I said, in the Star Wars films, I kept, every time they would reference an episode, that's like, can we see the movie of that? Like they mentioned the ship that we confiscated from the Mudd incident. Well, that's got to be Henry Mudd's ship, or whoever his name was, Hank Mudd, Harry Mudd, and so that's the ship that they went down to Kronos in.
But it's like, I want to see the Mudd thing.
Yeah, and that's so much more. And then you said that in one of your Discovery reviews that. What's her face and Book.
Yeah, they keep talking about their adventures that they've been on.
Yeah, and they sound so much better than what we're getting.
And by the way, thank you. Alex Kurtzman actually donated $1, and he said, "Oh, shut up! It's extremely hard to do my job. Keeping your precious canon is hard. Go to Kuroga and number 22." Wow, that's quite the insult saying go to Kuroga, but
it's almost as bad as go to Detroit.
Yeah, it really is. And there we go. We'll put number 22 up there, the super chat that shows Life with Matthew's head floating around. It is Life with Matthew. Don't let anybody tell you it's somebody else. It's clearly Life with Matthew. All right. So, get back to... Oh, and Springtime puts in $5. Thank you so much. Said, back to good Starfleet. Is Ensign Peanut Hamper a deserter from Starfleet, and what would her punishment be if she was captured by the UFP? That's an interesting question, actually. And now, you probably don't know about Ensign Peanut Hamper.
Ensign Peanut Hamper.
Yes.
Back to good ST. Is Ensign Peanut Hamper a deserter from Starfleet?
So I'm going to assume you do not know who Ensign Peanut Hamper is.
I can't even guess. Is this a Discovery character, or is this...
No, actually, it's a character from Lower Decks.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I haven't seen that either.
Yeah. So Ensign Peanut Hamper is actually a character who's introduced in the season finale. And I'm trying to remember what it's called, but it's like an exocomp. Do you remember the exocomps from TNG? They're like little robots that like floated around. Okay. So Peanut Hamper is in fact an exocomp.
Okay.
Okay. And so Peanut Hamper is the first exocomp to be enlisted in Starfleet as an actual officer. And so Peanut Hamper meets the crew of the Cerritos. Then the Packlet attack happens, and bad things are going on and stuff. And I know that sounds silly, but the Packlet attack was actually extremely intense and well done.
Oh,
and then at the end they're like, oh no, okay, so they figure out their plan is to because the Packlet, and this is another thing I love, that it's actually this is when we were talking about good writing versus bad writing on the virtual pub this week. You think about something that flows organically. The Packlets, they obviously assimilate their technology, right? They don't develop things, they steal and borrow from others. And so because of that, their computer systems have to be very open source, right? Because they have to be able to work with just about anything. So they figure that out, and so they think that the best way to disable the Packlets is to infect their ship with a computer virus, because it will be very easy to infect their systems because they're so generic. And so I'm like, okay, that's pretty good thinking.
Yeah.
So then they figure, okay, so the problem is that the Cerritos is shot all to hell. That most of their systems are offline. They need someone to be able to get to the Packlet ship, and ideally that someone would have to be able to survive being in the open vacuum of space and be able to transfer a computer virus into their system. Well, guess what? Peanut Hamper is like designed for that. Right? Because, so they all look at Peanut Hamper, and Peanut Hamper's like, oh, hell no, I joined Starfleet to piss off my dad. I'm out of here. And literally beams itself off the ship and abandons the ship. Which was a funny little joke, but, and then, of course, they get back to the serious story. So, based on that, Peanut Hamper absolutely is a deserter. So I that, and not only that, but a deserter during a not necessarily a time of war, but in a combat situation, which is the worst time to do it.
Exactly.
So as far as 24th century protocol, I don't know what the appropriate punishment is, but I will tell you that in the United States military, when I was active, that would be death penalty time.
Well,
and so now,
death penalty, definitely. Well, they did get rid of the firing squad in the United States Navy, and they got rid of flogging in like 1974. So I mean, you might be onto something there. There could have been a death penalty there. Right. Certainly something. But yeah, there has to be hopefully a what do you call it, a repercussion for that, because you and can't so I would have that.
Yeah, I would think in Starfleet, because Starfleet would be very much too enlightened to do a death penalty type of thing, but I would guess that they would probably say that she would have to go to a rehabilitation colony for a significant period of time. Right. And basically prove that they could be a productive part of the Federation again. Moonjumper says, Darren is a fun sci-fi adventure. I'd actually enjoy episode 6, but Burnham has learned nothing, and 1031A, it's the same ship. Yeah. I didn't even get into that yet. So how you doing, Daniel?
Hi, Andy Trucker. I just got home now.
Oh, very cool. Were you working today?
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, and Thomas, you're right. Is that Peanut Hamper would get the death penalty, but Michael Burnham would get a verbal warning. But then Apothecary says Burnham would get a promotion.
Yeah, it's just. What my worry is, what does this say to young impressionable girls?
Right.
That you can just go out and become this anti-authority, figure, and nothing will happen to you. It reminds me of some of the problems that I had with Frozen when I saw it.
See, I never watched Frozen. That just didn't look good.
In the beginning of the film, they make a point of showing you that the main export of this kingdom is ice. They cut it out of the lake, and you got these big brawny guys going out there and cutting the ice and carrying huge blocks of ice back to town, so that for selling. It's their industry. Mm-hmm. And yet Elsa, she can make ice just by waving her hand, And there was a number of other things about that film that I didn't care for, but they made it a point that the show that ordinary people, in order to make ice, it takes time, it takes some hardship and a reasonable amount of strength, and she's just able to make ice by wanting ice to be there.
Right.
And I didn't care for that. I know it's based off a Hans Christian Andersen thing, but I didn't like their choices there.
Well, I honestly, Disney, yeah. But yeah. Well, with Burnham, it's like I agree. I think that there's a problem where it's one thing to have someone that their moral compass is more important to them than, say, what the rules are. Right?
Right.
You could argue that Kirk was that way. But that doesn't mean that Kirk never suffered the repercussions of his actions.
No, he didn't.
And so it doesn't mean that he always gets away with it. And the problem is that in Discovery, it's becoming this pattern to where Burnham receives a set of orders. She immediately directly disobeys these orders, and then everybody basically celebrates her choice because she was right.
Yeah, it's unreasonable. You try any of the stuff that she's tried in any environment that's real, and I mean, there's a lot of problems that I have with Michael Burnham in general. She never went to the academy,
right?
She got to be an officer in Discovery because of some bullshit program that invalidates the academy. I mean, if you can go to any old college on any old planet, even the Vulcan Science Academy, and then just kind of come in and eventually become a commander. I mean, it's just what's so great about the academy? And it reminds me of Captain Kirk in the or Cadet Kirk in the Kurtzman Abrams film. We'll call it that now. Getting push button first officer position as a cadet. He's not even a commissioned officer at that point, and he gets to leapfrog all those ranks as if those ranks mean nothing. I mean, there's a graduation process that happens, a maturation process, as you well know.
Right.
That there's a reason why people who enlist don't immediately get, pushed up to sergeant and whatnot, unless they're in a very specific field and they get a very good deal during wartime or some other time. There was one guy I remember when I went to basic training. Who on our graduation day, the company commanders took him over to the NEX, the Navy Exchange, and he came back. He had all the accoutrements and everything of a first-class petty officer in E6. He actually outranked our two company commanders, but he was a musician. He was a guy who had a music degree and he had this special deal to go play basically at the Clinton White House,
Right.
and be a conductor and all, and stuff like that. So I mean, he was never going to go on a ship. That was the deal. That was the deal that he struck. And apparently, I asked him. He said it took him over a year to get that deal. He had to wait for just the right amount of time. And so things like that can happen, but on a command level, for a serving line officer to do that, it was one of the reasons why I couldn't stand the 2009 Star Trek movie. It was just too much to. And I can handle warp speed and I can handle aliens and transporters and things, but that was just hard for me to.
Well, it also, and this is something. What thinking about like my days in the Army is that. When you see someone of a certain prestigious rank, like in the Army equivalent of a captain is what we would refer to as a full bird colonel, right?
Right.
And when you see a colonel walk into the room, that is a big deal.
It is,
right?
Yeah.
And God forbid a general walks in.
Oh, yeah.
and so the. And I'm sure that in the Navy it's the same way. It's like sure. If you're on a ship, especially a tight fitting ship like a submarine, you might see your ship captain on a regular basis. But if an admiral is coming on and visiting, or a captain from another ship or something, that's a big deal. That's not a minor thing to meet someone of that kind of rank. But what they did in the J.J. Kurtzman era Trek is they've completely cheapened the rank. The rank of captain means nothing.
Yeah, I know. It's awful what they did, and they tried to kind of not really make up for it, but at least address it somewhat in the second film, where they admit that you weren't ready for this. It was probably a mistake to give you command of a ship, without ever having been an ensign, without ever having been a lieutenant, JG lieutenant.
And then what do? They just give it to him again.
They give it to him again, because of his familiarity with the Enterprise. So I mean, it's I remember in the novelization for the 2009 film, they do, I think, in some little piece of dialogue, reveal that one of the reasons why they gave Cadet Kirk, that captaincy was because the media had turned him into a hero and he was the new face of Starfleet. So they gave him a command, and we're going to give him a bunch of easy jobs. Right. And that he manages to screw up anyway, because of, like
that would actually make a better story.
Yeah. In Into Darkness, I mean, all he had to do was survey a planet, and look what he did. Right. He gets into trouble. He falsifies reports, and
violates the Prime Directive.
Yeah, and while he's having sex with two Caitians, they're taking his command away from him.
But the thing is, and that's another thing that I don't like about the modern era of Trek, is that people look at Captain Kirk like he would just willy-nilly break the Prime Directive. Captain Kirk took the Prime Directive extremely seriously.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
and in the instances where it was, and actually some of the more interesting conversations from the original series were centered around the idea of, is this an instance in which the Prime Directive applies? And like as much as some people hate the episode, The Apple, the one with Vol, and there's a really interesting conversation with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy talking about these people whose entire existence is to service a machine, and they think this machine is a god, and McCoy is sitting there arguing that they need to free these people because they don't even realize they're being oppressed by this machine. And Spock is saying, but wait a minute, don't these people have the right to choose a form of society that works for them? Mm-hmm. And that's some interesting stuff there. And so it's not that Kirk just says, oh, screw it, the Prime Directive, I don't care. No, he cares very much, but he also cares more about the people than the rule.
Right.
And Thomas Potts puts $4.99 in and says, "Were you mad George Washington became a general over you? After all, he wasn't that successful commanding British soldiers." And Uber chat number 13. All right, I'll play Uber chat and everything. Okay, so bear with me just a minute, guys, while Uber chat number 13 plays. I don't even remember which one this is. So, dun, dun, dun. Any day. Is it going to play? Come on. What's wrong with you? Is it Stinko? Try that.
Everyone, you will soon be hearing the tale of Stinko and his magical journey. Stinko wasn't an elf or a hobbit or any of that stuff. Stinko was a dead rat. One day, a chinchilla came and saw Stinko's rotting carcass. "This is going to be a tasty fine morsel," the chinchilla said. The chinchilla ate Stinko, and something wonderful happened. The chinchilla blasted a mighty poot of pixie dust. Why? So you see, all the magic you've ever experienced is caused by chinchillas eating dead rats and pooting them. And that is the tale of Stinko. Why is everyone covering their ears?
I don't know if that was the one you wanted there, Thomas, but I hope you enjoyed Stinko, the dead rat. Uh-oh, they coming to take you away, Darren?
No, it's just an ambulance going by.
Are they coming to collect the body of your neighbor that you murdered?
No, they just whizzed on by.
Okay. So they don't know you murdered her yet.
Somebody probably had a prolapse over at Burger King.
And Andrew says, "Love the board critiques." Thank you, Andrew. I want to do some more stuff like that, and as I'm working on getting my groove back, so to speak, I will be. But what were you starting to say, Darren?
I couldn't help but notice that Daniel's Hot Topics is in here with us.
Yes.
No, I'm here.
Okay. Feel free.
Daniel, he's always talking so much.
I know. He's like Morn on Deep Space Nine, And when he does talk, because his camera frame rate is so low, it never looks like his mouth is moving. It looks like he's talking to us through telepathy or something.
He's a Telosian.
It's low.
Apparently.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of times you'll be talking and your mouth won't be moving, and I'm like, I'm wearing headphones. This is really creepy.
So
you're like Baylock.
So Daniel, I know that you like Discovery a whole lot more than me. So tell me, what did you think of the last episode of Discovery?
Well, I thought it was okay. It felt like a filler episode, but it was okay. I liked how Burnham went rogue and went to this garbage depot on a planet, after the Emerald Chain to get her boyfriend Booker. And I liked Georgiou in this episode, man. She was really good.
You see, I'll say this: Georgiou was I think Georgiou was in character for her, as far as her being able to very casually fit into this environment where she was based. Burnham was pretending to be her servant, basically her slave, in this episode. And Georgiou was really able to push her evilness in this one, and that part I do think worked. But I don't mind the fact that I Burnham going rogue to try and find this black box. Okay, I can get behind that if they didn't just at the end go and you'll get a slap on the wrist, because she literally hijacked a ship, disobeyed a direct order of the commander of Starfleet and Saru. And I mean, even when Kirk disobeyed a direct order from the commander of Starfleet, he got busted down from admiral to captain.
Yeah. But that was because the fans were complaining, so that's why they did that. Remember in Star Trek 09 when he got away with everything? And then people were complaining a lot, so then in Into Darkness, they kind of bumped him down.
Well, no, but I'm talking about in Star Trek, Star Trek 4.
Yeah, that's true.
And so because, and I like the fact that in Star Trek 3, they the chief of Starfleet ordered Kirk not to pursue the whole thing about recovering Spock. And I love the fact that the very next thing Kirk said is, when they say, well, what's the word, Admiral? And he says, the word is no, I am therefore going anyway. And some people think that that's just, well, Kirk doesn't give a crap about authority. No, he absolutely cares, but he cares more about Spock than he cares about his career. And he knew full well that he was throwing his career away. And he said that before, like in Amok Time when he disobeyed a direct order to take Spock to Vulcan. And he said, look, Spock saved my life a dozen times over. That is worth my career. And the only reason he didn't get in trouble that time was because T'Pol, who is a very prominent political figure in the Federation, personally requested that Kirk be forgiven.
What now?
T'Pol, in the episode of Mock Time, Kirk was told to report directly to Altair 6, I think it was, but they went to Vulcan, and Kirk knew he was throwing away his career then, but because T'Pol interceded is the only reason he didn't. T'Pol, sorry. I know T'Pol. I can't. I'm sorry, but because T'Pol interceded, that's the only reason Kirk wasn't busted down then.
Well, wasn't there an '80s pop group called T'Pol too?
I don't think so.
Oh, yep, there was.
I'm sorry for saying T'Pol. Slip of the tongue there.
They sang the biggest hit in the United States was "Heart and Soul." T'Pol. They even spelled it correctly too.
I do not remember them at all.
Well, you're probably.
I remember '80s music. I mean, contrary to what
you were in your 30s then, weren't you?
I graduated high school in the '80s. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
So
1980 then.
Right.
I'm just kidding. All right.
So, but the interesting thing, so in Star Trek 4 though, and notice again, Kirk did what he knew he had to do to save Spock, and then he sat there and said, "Okay, let the record show that the commander and crew of the late Starship Enterprise are going to go back to Earth and face up for their indiscretion." And at the end, they dropped all charges because they literally saved the planet, but they still charged Kirk with the direct disobeying an order from the Starfleet commander.
Right.
And I like that. I think that was because, if you think about it, that was the one thing they did that absolutely could not be forgiven.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the fact that he saved the world was taken into account. But yet he had to be there for something,
right.
And and then of course the punishment they give him isn't really
it's more like a reward, yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you're gonna, I'm wondering if they, they only mentioned his duties would change back to being, they didn't mention his pay,
right?
So he probably, but. It was just a fun little thing. The what I call the Harv Bennett trilogy within the Star Trek film series began with Star Trek 2, where he's talking about how gallivanting around the universe is a game for the young, and that he's and McCoy's telling him, get back your command before you really do grow old. And
then it finishes with him getting his command back.
Getting his command back officially, reduced in rank, but still, So
that is, and the 2, 3, 4 is a nice trilogy of movies, and really 2, 3, 4, 6 is just a really nice bookend of the latter half of Kirk's career.
It is. Yeah.
So the and I think that's that kind of gravitas is what's really missing. Is one of the things that's missing in the later era Trek and Discovery in particular. They try to play up the militariness of Starfleet a little bit, more so than they did in Next Generation or anything. But at the same time, they're completely disrespecting what some of the most important things about being in the military.
And my favorite stories were the ones where somebody else was breaking the rules, and the hero, the captain of the Enterprise, in following, was charged with enforcing the rules. Because I'm going to tell you, following the rules is more often than not harder than breaking them.
Yes.
The episode of The Wounded, for example, where Picard is sent to essentially confront Captain Maxwell, who is waging his own little war against the Cardassians, and
yes, we know you're a racist.
Yes, I'm a racist against fictional alien character, alien races. But and here's Picard having to, the big flick is he has to maintain the peace. This is only a couple of months after the Wolf 359 thing, and so Starfleet had a shortage of ships. They're not prepared for another conflict right away. So he had to maintain the peace, and even though he knew that Maxwell was totally correct in his assertion that the Cardassians were rearming and they were basically reloading and getting prepared, preparing for another incursion into Federation space. So, yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know. It feels like. Yeah, in Discovery, it's, I mean, how many more times is Burnham going to go rogue and then get praised for it?
Yeah.
Well, she wasn't praised for it. She was knocked down a peg. She's now a science officer again.
She wasn't reduced in rank. And they just basically simplified her duties a little bit. And honestly, do you really think it's going to change the dynamic of the crew at all? I mean, what are they going to make Tilly first officer?
No.
Yeah, it's.
I honestly would not be surprised if Tilly becomes the new first officer, even though she's the lowest ranking member of the entire crew.
Well, technically, what rank was Burnham given at the end of the first season? Because she was a specialist, she wasn't even. She was Army rank.
She was a specialist when I know they were calling her Specialist Burnham because she had no rank, because the writers had no idea how rank works and that specialist actually is a rank.
Gotcha.
But so when they called her specialist, it was because she didn't have rank. As soon as they reinstated her, she was a commander again.
Wow.
And so, but Tilly was a cadet in season 1.
Yeah, student.
Yeah, and so her rank is literally student, and now her rank is ensign. So I would not be surprised if in the next episode we find out that she is the new first officer, because they've been going out of their way to say how awesome Tilly is the last couple of episodes.
Yeah, and we all know what that means.
Yeah. Well, the only other person that is as competent now as Tilly and Burnham is Tall, but Tall's not even a member of Starfleet, so...
Right. Yeah. She's another Wesley Crusher, basically.
Yeah, she's 16 years old, and by the way, in one day, rebuilt the spore drive. I mean, literally, she'd never seen the thing before. And then, I mean, look, I get it. Trills are very intelligent, and Trills can have many lifetimes worth of memories and experience. But that doesn't mean that you can walk in and see an experimental system that you've never seen before and then just redesign the whole thing in one day.
Yeah, you're not telling me anything I don't already know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a... Oh.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, it's like I'm trying to be nice, but the word that keeps coming to my mind is hacks. Mm-hmm. These are hacks. And now these might be good writers, and we don't know. Maybe their work is being shot down by all the damn producers on the show. Maybe they're the hacks. I don't know, but this is all the telltale signs of hackery on it.
I agree. Actually, Life with Matthew left a comment on my video today, and I agree with what he was saying. There is that, and he wanted to make it clear this was not meant as an insult, because there is a certain skill set involved, even though most people don't think of it. Is that the people writing Discovery would probably be very good at writing a soap opera. And because the way that they're writing is 100% about human drama interaction. It has nothing to do with the sci-fi, nothing to do with the world building. It's all about how do we make everybody's relationship more complicated, right? And that's what soap operas do.
Yeah,
You know, and
when this show originated, many of the writers on it were in fact former Gilmore Girls writers.
Right.
You mentioned Gilmore Girls at one point. You were more correct than you maybe even knew, because
I had no idea about that.
They actually did have, so, and it showed. It showed in all the female centric stuff. They're writing what they know and calling it Star Trek, and it's not. Yeah.
Right. And Sean, I'm not, because Sean points out spore drive is a symptom of the bad writing, but I'm just saying though, like if you came on to Discovery and like let's say you're the new writer, and you came on in season 2 or season 3, well, spore drive may sound stupid, but it's an established core part of the show, so you got to deal with it, right? And yeah. I can get past that because it's just ingrained into the show now. And they've tried to come up with ways to write it out of existence. In season 2, they tried to make it out that using the spore drive was actually damaging to these aliens that live in the mycelial network, and then they just kind of forgot.
Yep.
I guess they found a way to use it without damaging the aliens inside.
But they never say that.
Yeah.
That's
like,
true.
They can't. They don't bother to look at what previous writers within their own show have established,
right? And
then follow through. It's one of the biggest. One of the. You can't maintain a consistent world upon which to have your narratives take place if you do that. And I've said this before. Comic books have been doing this for a long time. That's why they suck. One of the reasons why they suck now. You've got writers who think they've come up with a brand new idea that nobody's thought of before, and then somebody like me will point out, well, in Amazing Spider-Man, the November 1982 issue, that's exactly what happened, and
right.
It was a huge friggin' deal when it happened, things like that, and you don't want to be a jerk to some of these people, because a lot of them are on social media now, and I actually think it was a lot better when people who were creators weren't on social media. They back in the day, they could just do their thing.
Right.
And they go to a convention where they're treated like a rock star, and that's what the way they used to be treated. Now they're on social media where anybody can say anything to them, and they're having to ban people because that image that they want is not being cultivated.
Quite frankly, I think that they should not be on social media at all.
Me too.
I think that and don't get me wrong. I mean, I understand they're humans. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. I'm not saying that it should be illegal or anything like that. But as a matter of principle, you know what? The last thing you need if you're the writer of a show is to start interacting directly with the fans, particularly the fans that don't like you, because you're just going to make it worse. There's no way that's going to ever work well for you. And we've seen it over and over and over. I mean, when people first started criticizing, the Star Wars, the Disney Star Wars films, mm-hmm. and then Kathleen Kennedy started shooting back, and then of course, that went well, because of course the fandom was like, oh, okay, well, we understand she's upset because we were kind of mean to her. No, it just turned into, okay, guys, it's on now, and. And that's just what we're dealing with now is that because of the fact that these self-indulgent Hollywoodites want to have their faces out there all the time, then when fans don't like what they do, they have to come up with some kind of justification. And so, of course, those fans are toxic or racist or homophobic or sexist or whatever they got to come up with in order to excuse what they're saying and be able to just dismiss it. And that's ultimately what they're looking for, is a reason to dismiss the negative criticism.
Right. Yeah, it's just... I used to have problems with John Byrne on his message board because he was used to going to conventions where people treat him like a rock star, and then he has his own message board, and all of a sudden, people are pointing out tiny little things that are inconsistent in some of his later work, and suddenly he's banning them left and right because you're not allowed to do that on his forum. Your forum exists to make him, look good and feel good, and and he was often very touchy on that stuff himself. So
and it's like, well, welcome to the frickin' internet. I'm sorry. I'm a modest-sized YouTube channel, and I get dozens of people sending me hate messages every day. And sometimes over the dumbest things, right? And so, and whatever, it's like, for example, I'll tell you, there was during LDG's stream today, I was there watching him do the one chip challenge, and of course, I'm going to give LD some crap because he was giving me crap about the one chip, and so I was even I was saying that he cheated because he broke the chip when he unwrapped it, and the way that he was holding it, you couldn't tell if he had both parts of the chip or not when he put it in his mouth. So I was like, oh, he's only doing the 3/4 chip challenge, and so I'm going to give him a hard time about that. There were people that were getting so angry at me. Like I was just the most cruel and mean person ever because I'm poking fun at a guy that's been poking fun at me for the last 2 months.
Right.
And it's like, wow, guys, take it down a notch. It's not a big deal. It's freaking LDG. Come on. Which I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen him in the chat, but
he'll be here.
Yeah. Well, he might be recovering from that chip. I'll tell you, that hit him pretty hard. It was pretty impressive. We all tend to do it. We tend to, the internet allows us to express ourselves without fear of repercussion.
Right.
And that's not necessarily a good thing. And by the way, Monty Spatchcock donated $1.33. Thank you so much, Monty. And says, good morning, gentlemen. Have either of you seen the film Screamers? If you have, what's your opinion? Also, what's your view on Google pulling the advertising rule on non-monetized channels? I'll talk about the non-monetized channels thing in just a minute, but have you seen Screamers? I don't remember that title, so does it ring a bell to you?
No.
Let's see here. Screamers. Looks like it's a film from 1995. It's a sci-fi film.
Okay.
But yeah, I've never seen it. Commander Joe Hendrickson, played by Peter Weller, and new recruit Ace Jefferson set out across the surface of Cirrus 6B, where they hope to settle a violent labor dispute at a remote mining outpost. After going too far to turn back, they find the desert riddled with deadly autonomous mobile swords. Not sure what that means exactly, but yeah, no idea, Monty. So as far as the new YouTube rule, yeah, I got a problem with it.
Which one is this now?
It's something, and it affects all non-monetized channels. Joshua, my son, because he has a small channel, he was asking me about it because his channel's not monetized. And it's basically, YouTube has now basically changed their terms of service that says, oh yeah, we're going to throw ads on your channel and we're just going to take the revenue. So they're going to monetize non-monetized channels. The only difference is that you don't get a cut of it.
Interesting.
So yeah,
until you get enough views that say that maybe we better do this, otherwise you might come after us for money.
Right. And which, no, I find that offensive to the core. You know, I don't know that it would be, it's honestly, I think there should be a class action lawsuit over something like that, because assuming they go through with this policy and they start doing it, then I would go with the precedent that Google has established, which is that when you put revenue on a channel, that they share it at a base percentage of like 60-40 or whatever it is, and that they owe it to treat everybody the same way. And so if they're going to monetize those smaller channels, they absolutely should pay or at least give the owners of those channels the option to receive the funding from that. Even if it's just 8 cents, that they deserve it. You know, and it's not like, I mean, I'm sorry, Google, but you know what? You can't, it's wrong. It is morally wrong to basically treat people as if they're in the partnership program, except you're going to take 100% of the revenue. That is absolutely BS, because you're still holding them accountable to the YouTube, terms of service.
Yeah, it's just very strange that they.
Right.
I think that they've been getting more brazen lately, because they think a certain election went a certain way. And,
I think so.
I mean, they've been much more open about what they want to do now, and I think they honestly think that that these congressional hearings are going to stop, or they're going for broke or something. I don't know. They're not backing down. And they are demonstrating exactly why some people think we need to enforce the platform policies that we have in place already.
And I tend to be one of those people. I mean, even though that might be detrimental to my personal income, I do think that Google needs to be broken up at this point. Because they are literally, it's so funny because they're sitting there pointing the finger at Russians trying to influence the election when they are trying to influence the election.
And there was a bombshell dropped at a press conference yesterday. I don't know if you saw that or not.
No, I did not.
I'm not going to go into it here because it's political, but the
basic stuff.
Basics are all of the cases they now have accumulated, regarding election fraud, and it was just staggering, all the things that they talk about, and these are people who have good reputations, and people who are not going to, come up there and make stuff up in order to get some sensationalization happening. This was you might be able to find it on YouTube. I doubt it, but because virtually nobody carried it. But that was pretty shocking, even for me. Being a conspiracy guy,
right?
Yeah.
But and I'll tell you, there are these other companies that are trying to get alternatives to YouTube up and running. Bitchute tried, but I'm sorry, their platform is virtually unusable. There are other, and people send me links all the time. Hey, check this one out. And 99% of the time, it's either unusable or unmonetizable. And now, the one you showed me recently that hasn't been launched yet, I think it's called Lighthouse, which is supposed to launch, I think they said in December. I like the idea of what they're doing, and he did in that video you sent me on it, he did specifically talk about monetization. I like their idea of the controlled algorithm. It reminds me of the way YouTube was back in the day when YouTube was just fun.
Right.
And what that is, guys, and this is actually a really cool concept, is imagine if, let's say that so I'm doing this video on Star Trek Discovery, and I think that, you should really hear what Darren has to say about this, because Darren's got a different point of view, and I want you to hear his stuff. So what I can do is partner with Darren. Now, he has to actually give me permission to do this, but assuming that he agrees, then what would happen is I would put it into the system so that if you're watching my video and you have autoplay on, his video would be the next one to play. It doesn't just go by the algorithm. You can, as the owner of a video, you can set what the next video will be. And that's brilliant. because that makes it so that like let's say you got a big channel that is, and you love this channel, like let's say that I go over to this platform and I just do great and I got 10 million subscribers and I'm like, hey guys, you've got to check out Bird of Prey. Well, it's I can say that all day long, but honestly, telling people to go check out a channel, most people don't bother. Right. And so, like, I mean, I've done whole live streams where I've been begging people to subscribe to other channels, and it's like pulling teeth to get 10 people to actually do it. And but if you set it up so that after my video, Bird's video plays, well, then because people do leave this kind of stuff on autoplay all the time, and so Bird's video comes up, and they actually hear it for a couple of minutes, and they can just, this guy's actually kind of entertaining. I think I'll subscribe to this guy. And I'm so sorry, Thomas. Thank you for pointing that out. I did not realize it. Yes, YouTube donated $1. So thank you, YouTube. And YouTube says, who will stop us? Get ready on January 20th. We will have free reign to do what we want, and the government will support us. You don't like it? We don't care. The funny thing is, though, and this is where I think Google needs to be careful. Sure, Google is liberal. Google's happy that Biden won the election, right? Whatever. I don't think that means that Biden is in Google's pocket. And I don't think he is. I don't think that Google has nearly as much freedom as they think they do. I think that they think, oh, one of our guys is in, so now we don't have to worry about antitrust laws. Right. And I don't think that the congressional hearings are going to stop. No. And as far as I know, don't the Republicans still have the majority?
Yeah, I mean they don't. I mean, there's a good chance that Nancy Pelosi won't be the House Speaker,
right?
And
I think Google needs to very, very careful about this, because just because Joe Biden will be in the White House doesn't mean that they don't have to worry about following the law anymore. And
I think Joe Biden is a placeholder anyway. I think as soon as he gets in, they're going to start. The Democrats will start saying, well, he's just too, they'll start admitting all the stuff they wouldn't admit prior to the election, that his mental faculties just aren't there, and so they'll get Kamala in there, and
maybe so, but honestly,
or he will simply be the figurehead, and there'll be a committee that actually tells him what to say.
Well, a lot of people thought that's what was going on with George W. Bush. They thought that Dick Cheney was actually running the country.
Oh, yeah, Reagan, too. I mean, that's...
But honestly, I think that people, and I know you're a conspiracy nut. Well, I'm not, but but I don't think that generally
charged.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that to be a jerk. I mean, you love conspiracy theories, and that's okay. That's your bag, man. But the funny thing is that I don't think that your life is really that much directly impacted by who's president of the United States.
Well, if anything, this recent COVID thing has shown us is that your vote for governor is at least as important as who you vote for president.
I would say more so.
Yeah.
Because who is running your state and your city and your county, that has a bigger impact on your daily life.
Oh yeah.
Like for example, in Texas, the governor of Texas made the decision to have a statewide mask mandate, whereas in Tennessee, it's a county by county thing. And so the laws are different in the different states. So some states, the state government doesn't even have the right to impose a mandate, where in other states they absolutely do. And so where you vote on your local politics is much, much bigger impact on your daily life. Honestly, who's president of the United States, that's just who Saturday Night Live is going to make fun of for the next few years. Is it going to, hey guys, news flash, we survived Clinton, we survived Bush, we survived Obama, we survived Trump, we will survive Biden.
If he's elected.
Yeah, I'll give you that. But whoever is president as of January 20th of next year, we will survive, and it's not going to make that big a difference in your daily life. And honestly, whoever is president next year, they're gonna be dealing with COVID. That's going to be the biggest thing on, and that's yeah.
You want to know what's interesting? I read this article here today that, Wonder Woman 1984, whatever you thought about that film when you saw the trailer, that's going to be moving to HBO Max.
Yes, I did hear that.
However, it's going to be opening in theaters in China, the very country where COVID originated.
That's funny.
It's like they get to have their movie theaters and we don't. I mean, I happen to think that a lot of the reaction to COVID is overblown, and it just this was just something that I couldn't stomach when I saw it. I didn't throw up, but
Yeah. And Andrew, no, I am not a friend of any of the political parties. And Daniel, I need to mute you because I'm getting a huge echo from you. So.
Yeah.
But Andrew, yeah, the political parties, I'm not a fan of the Democrats or the Republicans. I kind of call myself a lowercase L libertarian. I'm not a big fan of either major party. But I also want to say Super Blubberpuss, who says they won't make fun of Biden besides he's already a parody of himself. Let me tell you, if you haven't watched Saturday Night Live lately, Jim Carrey has been doing an absolutely hilarious impression of Biden. and I mean dead on. And so I do think that they'll make fun of Biden. They stopped making fun of Obama midway through his first term. And the reason was because the White House actually called up Saturday Night Live. They did this sketch where Fred Armisen, who did a great Obama, he did the sketch where he was like, well, the first year of my presidency's over, and I thought I would talk about all the wonderful accomplishments that I've done, but I haven't. And he goes, I talked about free health care for everyone. Nope, haven't gotten around to that. We did talk about doing welfare reform, but no, we just haven't had time. Now, one other thing we talked, and he just went on this whole laundry list of things that Obama promised, and nothing happened in his first year. Mm-hmm. And after he did that sketch, the Obama administration actually reached out to NBC and basically did a cease and desist on them.
Yeah, that's not the first time that's happened.
Right.
What's his face? Lorne Michaels has often said in interviews, he says, we tend to make fun of Republicans more because when we make fun of Republicans, like Dana Carvey, for example, doing a George Bush, impression, George Bush invited him to the White House for dinner and stuff like that. Whereas if we do that, we make fun of Democrats, we get messages from their lawyers.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, so got a couple more super chats in. Thank you, guys. Monty Spatchcock put in another $1.33 and says, thanks for your thoughts on YouTube's latest stunt. I've been finishing some videos to share, but I wasn't going to monetize them at all because of this mess. I'm now not going to bother. I refuse to pad Google's pockets any further. Well, and that's honestly, and I know I said it in my recent video, but that's why I will not do the memberships thing. Because memberships just gives a third of whatever people sign up for to Google. I would rather you put that, if you're going to support the channel, granted, I love the super chats and stuff, but do the Streamlabs thing because it doesn't put money in Google's pockets. You can support the channel through Patreon or through antitrekker.com, and it doesn't line Google's pockets. And I'm sorry, if Google starts treating channels with equity, I will have no problem with them, taking a third of all the money. But right now, I have a big problem with it because they're screwing over people left and right. And so I'm not going to actively try to increase their revenue. The other one is husband-elect Joe Biden donated $1 and said, I would have you two ladies know I'm completely mental. I think that's what sane is anyway. If you forget to vote for me, there's still time. Hail President Harris and her husband Berto Pray 5 and number 22. And I know we already played number 22, but we'll play it again here for you, where we get to see Life with Matthew's face rising from the darkness as slowly rotating. There he is, Life with Matthew, saying, golly gee. You know, I one of these days I want to redo the sound of this, just have like Matthew say something, have it like all echoey and everything. Golly gee, you know, give in to me. So thank you, Joe Biden.
That's terrible.
So yeah, I will, but so I am not going to go out of my way to support Google right now. I do hope that they get over themselves.
Yeah.
And no, Andrew, I still have to do videos for those episodes you listed. I do actually still have to do those. I have not finished my Borg series, and I do want to. I'll tell you, Andrew, it's a long, drawn-out story, but I had some serious health problems over the last year or two, and it's just completely screwed me up, and that's why the Borg series and other things just kind of got put on hold, and I'm only now getting to the point where I'm capable of doing this stuff again. And thanks to you guys, we've managed to survive. So that's just, yeah, it's been a rough patch. Anyway, so I hear your neighbor is celebrating.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts here tonight before we wrap up?
Well. Oh, yes, there is something I want everybody to know about. There is a, I don't know how you I know that you're a 3D modeler. And
Yes.
so there's this thing that I discovered seconds before your show started tonight.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, Hero Forge 2.0. It's a basically what it is a thing where you get to design your own miniature for like a role playing
tabletop RPG. Yeah.
But you can also just use it as a general character creator for free, and then create wallpapers and things like that with what you create. And when you get one you want, and you save it, you can actually pay them to make the miniature, or you can pay for a lot less money and just get the file and 3D print it yourself.
Yes.
And so Hero Forge is what it's called. HeroForge.com. Check it out. It's.
I have heard of them. And
you can spend hours on this thing.
Yeah, it's a cool little system. Heroes Forge, you can go into their thing and design a character from the ground up, and it is a cool little thing. You can design a character and then make it. I just wish, like, I wish that that you could take templates from different games and stuff. Like if you have a favorite character from different games and print them.
Yeah, I mean they've got a lot of newer things here, but I mean
right.
it's
it's all their custom stuff,
right?
And Andrew says because you guys now say quantum and reasons at work. Yes, quantum. And we better not see 32nd century Borg. I do not want to see, because if the Borg are still around 32nd century, they should have taken over the entire galaxy. And Andrew says, I'm going to say it. I'm a Democrat. Is that okay? Can I still say, oh, yeah, look, I will tell you straight up, Andrew, this is absolutely true. We have far right wingers. We have left wingers. We have centrists. It's okay. Now, we will sometimes argue and fight over this stuff, but the number one rule around here is that we're not going to hate on each other over it. And so it's okay to disagree. Oh yeah, and I see the Placosmus decided to clean up the glass right in front of the camera right now on the live stream. If we get into a political discussion sometime and we disagree on something, it's all good, man. But because we put people ahead of politics. You know, that's my philosophy on it. And honestly, if you get so, and I'm not talking about you specifically, but to anybody, and I've said this before, if you get so worked up to where because someone is more or less conservative than yourself or more or less liberal than yourself, and you can't talk to them because you have some disagreement on politics, you need to get your head examined. And quite frankly, yeah, there are way too many people taking politics way too seriously, especially this year. But that's just my humble opinion. Anyway, so we are going to wrap it up here. Daniel, anything you want to say before we wrap up?
All right. First of all, I want to say, last night when you were watching Plan 9 from Outer Space with Matthew,
Yes.
I love that stream. It was so cool.
That was a lot of fun.
I love Plan 9 from Outer Space. I remember watching it on. There wasn't a video game I used to have. I still have it actually. It's Destroy All Humans. You know Destroy All Humans.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Okay, so like that game came with in the special menu edition. Like when you finish the game, you get Plan 9 from Outer Space. You can watch it at the very end. It's like a bonus, like a reward, and it was so much fun. I loved it, and yeah, it's a really, really fun movie. I'm still trying to find it, but I can't find it, anywhere. I tried looking at the bargain bin at Walmart. I can't find it.
I will tell you can actually watch it
in town.
It is on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube, but as far as finding a physical copy, I don't know. I got it a long time ago, and but I do love some of these old cheesy movies, and Matthew and I are going to continue to do, at least for the time being, probably every other Thursday, and we'll probably be watching mostly really bad movies because they're just fun. But we'll figure out, because Matthew has not seen Birdemic. That's such a bad movie. Anyway, so
Birdemic. That sounds like there was a Thanksgiving horror film I saw once called Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that
sounds like that.
Birdemic. The amazing thing about Birdemic is how amazingly bad this movie is. It's. Let me see here if I can find a good image for you. Let's see. I'm trying to. Oh, there's got to be a way to zoom in on this. But like, if I share this, I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but now that image, that very cheaply slapped together Photoshop image. Can you see that? No, that's not a cheaply photoshopped image. That is an actual still from this movie. The birds are quite literally like Microsoft clip art. And by the way, they explode on impact for some reason. That they literally, like, the birds like dive bomb and just explode. And there's really, it's just so ridiculously bad. And it turns out that they're doing it because global warming.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else? Yeah.
Yeah. So, Birdemic is definitely on our short list. We're talking about maybe watching the Sharknado movies. And then there's also plenty of old movies that are really, really horrible. But just to have fun, and that's what it's all about. We Matthew is a great guy. And we got some stuff that me, Darren, and Matthew have been working on. Hopefully I'll have the first chapter of that out next week, which I think you guys will like. And we're just going to be doing a lot of stuff. The idea is to build the community, and if this Lighthouse platform works, then dang it, we'll get the community going over there, especially with their partnership thing where we can interlink everybody's channels and stuff. Yeah. I think that would be great. I'm hoping that this one becomes the one, because sooner or later, one of these upstarts is going to replace YouTube. It will happen. It's just a matter of when. Just like, because you know what? YouTube is going the way of MySpace. It really is, because they are doing everything they can to piss off their core audience, and that's not a smart thing to do.
No, it's not. And he has stated that he has patented features that, you know, so that he's got, you know, I went, because he went on a radio show that I actually sent some messages to, and I said down like you know, in order to be, you can't just be like YouTube, you have to be better than YouTube at certain things, but not just with the lack of censorship and such. And he said he went into a bunch of stuff that he said that they've got patents on things that, quite frankly, YouTube just hasn't done yet.
And if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, then hopefully the next one does, and they learn from them.
Right.
You know, but sooner or later, one of these platforms is going to work, and all of a sudden YouTube is just going to become a graveyard. Because once the independent content creators go, guess what? If people want to watch clips from CBS, they'll just go to cbs.com.
Right.
You know. Anyway, guys, so with that, I am going to wrap it up. You guys have...
Hold on.
What?
Okay, before we go, I wanted to say my favorite part of the episode was when Georgia was getting her flashbacks. You know, the flashbacks when she was like...
I know what you're talking about, but the problem is we don't know enough about them, and here's my problem with the flashbacks. I'll be honest with you, Daniel. It reminded me too much of the whole Ring of Doom from Picard. You remember the PVC pipe Ring of Doom, where everybody touches it, and they see something so horrifying that they claw their own faces off?
Yeah, the Zotbox.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just now with Georgiou instead of with a group of people.
So she was on top of some guy with a mask, you know, and she had a dagger covered in his blood, and she was like saying, "My son," right? And I'm thinking, she has a son? Really?
Well, you see, honestly, that's not that exciting to me. And I know for you it's different because you like the darker side of it. I don't. I think that Star Trek is supposed to be at its core an optimistic view of the future. And this is just something we disagree about, but I mean, I'm glad you're enjoying it. But for me, the dark stuff, like when they show the graphic violence, even when it's at quick flashes like that, that drags the show down for me. Because that's very not Star Trek. But if you love it, you love it. And that's the one thing we'll say around here is that if you know what, we can disagree without being dicks about it. And I wish that the SJWs and Phantom Menace would learn that. But whatever. All right. So with that, guys, I am going to wrap it up. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Darren. And thank you to everybody that's been hanging out with us this time. And good night. And don't
forget to wipe.
Oh yeah. Don't forget.
You said that one time at the end of a stream. I couldn't believe it.
I know, but I was trying to think of something to say.
Don't forget to wipe.
Yes. Don't forget to wipe, folks, because my God, you don't want to forget that one. Good night. And we are out.